and live on Facebook. Okay. And I will just go back. We are here and just got Bull joining us in the room as well. So I'll just go. Okay. So I think we're all go, recording everywhere at the moment. Just good morning and welcome to the last of our weekly Wednesday catch-ups at our farm. Today's topic is going to be about managing lameness. We normally start the session with a quick overview of the week, the weekly data from the farm walk yesterday, and then we delve into the topic, provide a bit of a brief overview, and then open up for any questions along the way. It's about 40 minutes, so till about 11:40, but feel free to jump in and ask questions as we go. So, okay, so my name's Jo Sheridan, a demonstration manager at our farm, and with me Tom Buckley, the farm manager. We've also got Frank Portergeist, who is with DairyNZ, and DairyNZ of course do the Healthy Hoof training program that they run there, and we've also got Bill from Cambridge Vets, who is just tuned in there as well, so hopefully he'll be able to contribute to the discussion as we go throughout today. So just a quick roundup about the week that's gone, Tom, from yesterday. How are you feeling about the farm walk cover and the feed situation?
Yeah, we're on good form, I think. Yeah, I've got a little bit of silage to make, hopefully on Friday if it doesn't get too wet tomorrow. Covers are just over 2,400 with the silage and 350 without those silage paddocks. So still a good amount out there, and yeah, just pulled the partum kennel out. They just cleaned up the trailer last night, so we should be all grass now for the foreseeable future, hopefully. Growth's a little bit lower than demand, so that hopefully just help keep those longer covers under control.
Cool.
But yeah, all the crops should be drilled over the weekend, I hope.
Yeah, so the big priority's been about getting the crops in the ground, but also maintaining feed intake levels, and also mating. Started on the 22nd of September. Yep. And that's going all right?
Yeah, really well. Lots of really strong natural heats. We've used the PG program as well on about 100 cows, just to bring week two into week one. I had planned to do it week 3 into week 2, but didn't quite work my dates out right. But yeah, they're going really well. So just over 170 cows done in 7 days.
Right, awesome. Thanks, Tom. And so any questions about that before we whip into our topic of choice from anything you might have had come through the weekly notes? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share a PowerPoint here, give a bit of an overview, so hopefully you can see that all right. Can you see that, Frank?
Yep, that's on the screen.
Okay, all right, okay, it's taking a while. I've got so many screens going, I'm getting myself confused. Okay, so I guess this was a challenge that came up for us. Oh, I'll just move on here. In pretty much March of 2020, didn't it, Tom? So yep. What we can see here is the tracking of our lines. This top line at the top is our 1920 season, and we ended up that year with about 34% of cows with lameness, and lameness is considered any cow that is removed from the herd in order to rest her, to pick up her feet, to look at her for any reason. So not necessarily an antibiotic treatment, but a cow that wasn't really fit to be able to travel the long distances required from the herd that she was in. So we kind of got to March 2020 and thought that we had an increasing problem of lameness on the farm over the previous 2 years, and it had got to the point where it was starting to have quite a big animal welfare impact and productivity impact as well, Tom?
Yep.
So we decided that we needed to intervene, and we needed to look at how we could do things a little bit differently here. So we're just going to step you through pretty much the process that we followed. And just so that you can see before I hop off the slide, the green line was the 2021 season. So that was the resulting year. Lameness dropped down to about 15% for that year. And then this dark blue line right down the bottom is how we're tracking the season. So we've had a bit of a lift with that couple of wet weeks we had.
It's bringing it really tight in, wet weather. And cows really starting to get cycling, so yeah, doesn't help.
Tailed off again now?
Yeah, the last few days we haven't had any, so
yeah, excellent. Okay, so the first step that we did when we were looking at the lameness was just to kind of identify how much of a problem it was. Anything that we look at investing on the farm, we have to look at a bit of the cost analysis of it. So we use the lameness cost calculator that DairyNZ has there, and what we were able to do is have a look at the potential cost of lameness, which was about $57,000 for the farm. And so for us, it was quite easy to put together a bit of a case study to engage with somebody who could give us some expert advice on how we could look at things differently and implement some strategies to change things on farm. So we engaged with a Healthy Hoof provider. So Bill Hancock is our Healthy Hoof provider at Cambridge Vets there. The process that they effectively use is to diagnose and create an action plan. And then we look at the skills that are required and making sure we're monitoring the cows, and then sort of checking in on progress, and then being able to revise and continually sort of tweak the plan. So that was an integral part of the process that we were to use. So DairyNZ manages the Healthy Hoof program, and they have all their trained providers are on their website. So you can contact, you can look up your vet clinic to see if they've got somebody within their clinic who's able to provide that sort of advice through the program. One of the first things that we did was to set up a GoPro on the yard. So we had a bit of a chat to Bill about it, and we needed to find out what was actually creating the cause of the lameness. And so up the top there, we can see the sprinkler going off. We pretty much set up a GoPro under there, and we just recorded. We told the team that we were recording the milking, and we just recorded the cows in the yard just to see what was happening out there and what sort of behavioural things we could pick up, and processes and handling information we could gather from that. The second thing that we did was we created a lameness board. And the reason for the lameness board, like Tom, you were already collecting a little bit of data up on a whiteboard there, weren't you? Yeah. And the idea with the lameness board was to align the identification of the hoof and the issue and the treatment with the DairyNZ information calculator, so that we could actually share that information, and we had a consistent approach. So whoever was picking up a foot or looking at it or diagnosing was able to use the same type of coding to represent what the challenge or the issue was and what the treatment was. So we really needed to create a consistent approach to collecting the data, so that we knew a little bit more about what was actually happening with the cows on farm.
Jo, can I just make a comment?
Yes.
So I think it's really important. It's really good that Tom did record all that. And from that information, we ascertained that the majority of the lameness was white line disease. And that led us to the next step, which you're about to talk about, which is the cow flow and the situation around the cow yard.
Excellent. Thanks, Bill. So Tom, do you want to talk a little bit about this?
So yeah, having watched the GoPro footage, and I'm sure it tied in as well, going from a square yard to a round yard. The cows on the left-hand side, they're on the wrong side of the gate to come onto the platform, and they can see where they want to walk on, but they've all got to turn around and walk the other way first. So when you've got 300 cows on the yard, it's reasonably tight. And so we found that by splitting the yard, everyone was facing the right direction to then get onto the platform, and it made a huge difference, and it's actually improved cow flow as well.
like you said, Tom, originally the gate was, I don't know if you can see hopefully you can see my cursor. The gate was up here. All these cows, in order to take up the space in the yard, we were having to push these cows when the actual space in the yard was sitting over in this corner. And so by having the cows go onto the yard on two sides, as this gate moves up, the space is actually created behind the gate, and then these cows have time to all turn around and start to take up the space before this gate then pretty much goes around and follows them round.
Yep.
So that was really just identified by analysing the GoPro footage and just watching that cow behaviour and seeing the way they were having to turn and the pressure that the gate was causing. Did you want to comment on that a little bit, Bill, around why that was so important for the white line, the occurrence of damage on white line issues?
So Joe, in my experience, both obviously with our farm and other farms, is white line is generally a disease of cows under pressure, where cows are getting pressure points and either having to push forward out of that pressure, i.e. on the yard or on the raceway or the feed pad, or back out of a situation. So whenever they have to turn or push or move around or compete is a situation where they can potentially get the white line disease. So that's why when I came to have a look at our farm, I was specifically to start with anyway, looking for anywhere where there was pressure on the cows.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Bill. And so how does that process work now, Tom? You've got two herds that you run, so both herds go on as split herds?
No, the big herds sort of 250 to 260 cows. So yeah, we split that herd in half, and then the small herd can fit on half the yard.
So when the small herd goes on, you've got the gate there, and they're all facing the right direction anyway. Okay, awesome. So that was one of the big changes that you made to the system. Did it take the team very long to get used to that, having the yard set up like that to get the cows in?
No, as I said, I think it actually improved cow flow because you weren't having to push a cow that was an hour away from being milked. They're quite driven to come onto the platform, get their relief, and then head off to the paddock. So I think it worked really well.
Awesome. And tell us a little bit about the setup that you've got with the mirrors. There's a couple of mirrors up here. On here you can see the mirror that you use for checking tail paint and heat detection aids, and then you've also put up this mirror here, which of course has got this sort of vision on it. Tell us a little bit about the purpose of why that mirror's there, Tom.
So because we were struggling to get the cows on the platform by having the whole yard open, we put this mirror up to stop myself and the staff walking up and down the steps, and that obviously pushes into the cow's flight zone and she goes backwards instead of forwards, so you're actually making the problem worse. So now we're able to watch what's happening on the yard. So every time we press the button, we can see how tight those cows are in the yard. We do have a timer on there and a buzzer as well, so we're not leaving it on and pushing them too hard. But again, that's really helped. It's also really useful for watching cow behaviour when you've got bulling cows as well. Later on in the season, when there's only one cow, she's usually the one milling around and pushing through everybody. So
yeah. Bill, did you want to comment a little bit about operators hopping in and out of the pit or the cups on zone to get cows into the bales?
Yeah, I think the mirror is a fantastic idea, and we had noticed, Tom and I had noticed that was affecting cow flow. The fact that people were having to climb up and look at the cows and see where the gate was. So the mirror seemed to be a sensible next step to help that cow flow, and it's really important to train the cows on normal behaviour. So if you have individuals that do anything different, that can often upset cow flow, like climbing up or in herringbone situations, getting up at the end of the pit to push the last few cows in or whatever. You really need to be patient and try and train the cows rather than having to get up and disrupting the cow flow.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks, Bill. Okay, and what were some of the other steps along the way too, Tom?
In the past, I worked on a big herd where we had a lot of lame cows just because of the size of the herd. So I used foot blocks. So I've actually got got foot blocks that I make myself in the maintenance department, so quite easy to make. And then I use the sheaf glue from Farm Source, and occasionally get bill out if I've got any issues or I need some advice on a cow that's not improving. Really good to get the staff to come and have a look at what's happening, and opportunity for training there. So
so you do most of the foot treatments yourself until you get a cow that is challenging? That
I'm stumped with, we've got a good setup. It's got a roof on it, got a light out there, so we can do any lame cows as they appear. I'd rather pick them up nice and early so they're in and out of the lame mob within a couple of days, rather than leave them until they're really sore. And the facilities make it attractive for the staff to do that too. So.
Yeah. And Bill, did you just want to comment on your ability to help support and provide people with some of the training required to do some of the early diagnosis and treatment of cows on farm? I know there's quite a lot of training that's now available out there.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, I think training's really important, and vets love to teach. So I think when you've got your vet on the farm having a look at your cows, it's really good to get the person that's going to look at the cows on the farm to work with the vet and watch, even if you have to get a third person to hold the cow, or ideally have a facility like you've got there. So yes, training is really important. Training both about what you're going to do with the feet and how you're going to treat them, and the trigger points for maybe getting the vet or somebody to trim the feet, but also how you're going to manage that and record that within your business. So it is an important part, as you said right at the start, welfare and production and cost. So it's important to have a good plan together, to know what you're going to do on your farm with your lame cows, who's going to treat them, and check on everyone's training and make the most of the opportunity for training from your vet. Or often vets will offer training programs. We've actually got one coming up with to train the people that are going to do the feet on your farm, how to trim them effectively and make the right call.
So people can just contact Cambridge Vets for that, to get involved, Bill?
Yeah, or their local veterinarian. Most veterinary practices will be offering some sort of training at some stage. So it's important to make the most of that. And obviously the other thing is, as you mentioned, is the facilities. And I think I congratulate our farm for setting up the facilities. And I think it's important that if you want your staff to look after your lame cows and do the job, then you need to have the proper facilities, or a crush that you can safely pick the feet up and one person can do the job, and it's going to be safe for the cow and for the operator. It makes it much nicer and easier for them to do it, and everybody's going to be keener to get those cows out early and have a look at their feet rather than waiting for them to be really lame.
Yeah, and there are providers who have mobile crushers and can treat, I think Hoofit's one of the businesses around here, and the Hoof Man. So there are people around that can help support that sort of stuff as well.
And Tom, with those hoof blocks, you like the idea of those. How often do you use them? Do you put them on most cows or just the real bad ones?
Sort of any white line that's not on the heel, really. I just find that speeds up the recovery because they're not having to walk on that sore foot. And it costs about 10 cents a block to make. The glue's quite pricey, but certainly during the spring we've got a heat gun there as well, so we dry the block out to get rid of any moisture so that the glue sticks nicely, and we just dry the surface of the hoof off as well.
Yeah, just it takes the pressure off, and I guess they heal a lot quicker.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, they biodegradable?
Yep, they would.
You're not having to pick plastic bits out from the paddock. Yeah. Okay. So the next step along the way was also about capital race work. So part of the process was to identify what the current state of the races was. So Tom and I spent quite a lot of time travelling over all of the races, kind of going through them with a fine-tooth comb and identifying some priority areas. And priority areas were related to the amount of traffic. So whether both herds were crossing over certain parts, they were related to where crops were placed, because wherever crops are placed, we have really high traffic zones, cows going in and out of them sort of multiple times. And the current state of the race could be to do with the gradient, trees around them, drainage areas and all that sort of stuff. So what we did was we mapped out first, second and third priority areas on the farm, and this picture you can see sort of the extent of the farm and some of the races. And just to give you an example, just a snapshot, so it was quite a fairly big document that we presented to the Farm Management Committee, which of course then are able to recommend and approve some of the expenditure in the area. But we identified what does good look like, and so we were able to show some areas where we had re-raced the race. Now, bearing in mind too, we have quite high traffic zones on our races, so as well as having animals, we have quite a lot of vehicle traffic with people entering the farm, whether it's contractors or whether it's visitors to the farm. So we do need to make sure that the races are multi-purpose, useful for four-wheel drives and for stock. So we're able to identify what good looks like, where cows flow really nicely and quickly, and we're really comfortable, and the races were weathering well. And then we were able to identify, we broke down the farm into all the different areas, and we took photos, we looked at the surface, the top of the surface, and then the structure and the what it was made up of. And we also looked at any drainage that was around it, or drainage that was needing to be done. So here was an example of a race area. Tom, do you just want to talk to a little bit about what was the challenge with this particular area?
So we had the plan to put some cropping area sort of just behind us on that left-hand photo. And it was taking about 40 minutes to get up that hill. It's quite a steep hill, so couldn't put any sand on it. So it was quite tiresome, especially in the summer when it's warm, getting cows up there. And yeah, we've put a new surface on it. We've done some cutaways so that the water's not running the 150 meters all the way down the hill. And yeah, it's now taking sort of between 5 and 8 minutes to climb that hill instead of the 40, and you could even leave the cows at the bottom and go back and wind up a fence or put a fence up. So it's really good, and yeah, especially with the two crop paddocks we've had down that end of the farm, it's made it much more user friendly and kinder on the cows' feet too.
Yeah, so that was a really good example of just breaking down into each particular area and then being able to prioritise them. All up, I think we had planned originally about $30,000 worth of capital development on the races, with some ongoing work year on year, but it allowed us to then put it into our budget so that we weren't actually just having to react that year and spend it. We actually were able to plan out 3 years in advance how much money we needed to have for capital raceworks within our budget. We also, sometimes it doesn't always work to be able to get the work done that we need on the races when we need. So here's an example of problem solving. So this was earlier in spring this year. What was happening there, Tom?
So just the slopes in and out of the underpass, they were getting worn away quite quickly, and I couldn't get the contractor here, and then we went into lockdown. So that put him another 2 weeks behind even turning up here, but he was obviously delayed on his other job. So I had access to some AstroTurf, so I thought we'd give that a go, and yeah, we rolled it out, and yeah, it's been really good. It's nice and easy to wash, so we can wash the AstroTurf and it gets collected in the sump, and then that goes to the pond. It's worked really well. And I've also put it where we were feeding molasses on the race as well. It actually broke through the race surface last year, so it was going to be resurfaced anyway, but where we fed it this year, I put a sheet of that underneath the molasses feeder, and yeah, there's no damage at all.
Excellent. And so one of the things on the farm is that most of the supplements, palm kernel and molasses, are fed on the races because we don't have infrastructure, just silage in the paddock. So very mindful about areas where we do set up those feeding places to make sure that we're not causing any extra race damage. And particularly like where the molasses will be, where it might be there for a long time for the cows to access in and out during that early milking period. So, I mean, that was a great example of just being able to watch and observe the cows and just noticing how much they slowed down and the tenderfootedness as they reached the underpass. And you know, Tom and I caught up and kind of thought, hey, this the cows aren't very comfortable here. We need to get on top of this before it becomes a problem. That's one spot that I can watch from my office and see the cows walk up. And often I'll just take a video and show the cows at the front of the herd where they're free to walk. And when you watch the cows that are actually free to walk and they're still having trouble on a race, you know that you've got some problems there. So being able to get in there and problem solve early doesn't have to cost a lot of money, but just being able to identify the challenge helps to preempt some problems that we might have with it.
We've also just the change of surface going on and off the yard between concrete and the race material. I've got or have used bits of carpet for the last few years, but it's quite lightweight. So I've used another sheet of astroturf there, and it's so heavy it doesn't move at all, and it's great just to break that change of surface. And we haven't had much wear away at all on the race, so it's another good use.
Cool. So that's a bit of an overview about the lameness challenge that we've had. I mean, last year we were sitting at about 15%. Our target is still to get lower than that. I think we're looking at less than about 12%, isn't it, Bill, in our animal health management plan? So we are continuing on the journey to keep improving the races and also look at diagnosing the information as it comes through, what is causing it and how we can sort of get on top of it. Any other changes or additions to this year's management of lameness, Tom?
No, not really. I think both the staff, they're another year more experience and they're able to pick up cows nice and early. And the other day a cow got drafted out and it was just a stone stuck between her heel, and she spent the night in the lame mob and she was fine the next day. And rather than not being able to see it for a week and then suddenly you've got an infection, you've got to treat her with penicillin, she's out of the vet for a period of time. But I think we've only treated 3 out of the 24 cows this year. So I try and steer away from the use of penicillin. So
yeah. And so any staff member who identifies a cow they think might be lame can easily draft out through ProTrack so that that cow is drafted out regardless of who's there walking that afternoon, right?
Yeah.
And that's been quite valuable as well. Yeah. Okay, so that's pretty much it from us in relation to our story. Keen to hear from you guys if you've got any questions, or you might want to share some of your experience that might be insightful for us about any lameness challenges you've been dealing with on your farm.
Bill, are you seeing a lot of lameness around at the moment?
There's a bit, but it's not too bad actually, to be fair. Just a normal sort of a year, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. But Pam, John, any questions? Or I remember you from your Te Pahu days a long time ago.
Yes, hello. We are sort of experiencing what you guys have had. We seem to be getting year-on-year increases in lameness,
Right.
Typically mostly white lines, although this year we've seen probably more front feet and more, is it in the axial, the inside of the claws, which is still kind of like a white line going up. We've had several discussions with our good vet, and he's sort of now at a loss of why it's happening. We have pretty good races. We are spending that 20,000 on the races. We've done a lot of work on them. They're very good. We do have a feed pad, and we did wonder if it was pressure in the pad. We're at the point now where we really do need some expert help one way or the other. That's why we were keen to just see how you guys have done it, and probably look further into this Healthy Hoof. Like, we've had our farm consultant out. At the moment we haven't really got a good idea.
Frank, did you want to talk a little bit about the Healthy Hoof program?
Yeah, well, the Healthy Hoof program is there's various number of vets and consultants that have been through the Healthy Hoof program. So it's basically about training the vets and the consultants. And so there's a list of Healthy Hoof providers on the DairyNZ websites, and most vet practices in the Waikato will have 1 or 2 people enrolled in the program, and then they can go out on farm and actually have a look at what's happening on farm and just try and identify what the problem is, and also offer training for farm staff in terms of identifying, treating lameness, and ongoing support with any lameness problem that you can have. I guess
those cows, eh?
Yeah, I guess the first thing is actually just recording what sort of lameness you're getting, and where they're getting it. So like you said, that you're getting a lot of it in the front hooves. So that may point to a certain issue that you may be having on farm. I know with our place, we were getting a lot of heifers with lameness in the front hooves, and I found it was just that bit of pressure on the yard. And what Joe said with the staff going out of the pit, we had a herringbone, so they were always keen to have a full row of cows. So, but every time you go out in the pit, all of a sudden the cows will push backwards, especially the heifers, because they're not a dominant animal, so they'll push back and try and get out of the road, and that's all push pressure on the front hoof. So that's all pointing us in a certain direction that, maybe we sort of stay in the pit a lot longer, and that did actually help. So. So yeah, go on the DairyNZ website and just search DairyNZ and lameness. It'll probably take you to the right page. And then there's a whole section on the Healthy Hoof and who the providers are and what sort of which vet practices are offering the service.
Yeah, and I wonder, the actual video footage is amazing, eh? And when you see it and watch it, and then you talk to your team about watching a cow and see how her behaviour changes for your own farm is really, really valuable. So if you've got someone who has got a GoPro and you can record it, we recorded it, watched it, we passed it on to Bill. He spent some time looking through it, analysing it, and then we were able to come together and talk about it as a team, and that was really, really valuable. And that's pretty much part of the Healthy Hoof process. And you could set one up maybe on your feed pad too, Pam, where where the cows are undisturbed, just watching some of their behaviour when they go maybe from the feed pad onto the yard, or it might be when they're entering the feed pad and what they're doing around the bins and stuff, and you might get some insights when you watch that over a long period of time around some of the flow and cow behaviour stuff. So that was really good, Tom?
I think with staff, it's great to review it and actually show the effect of their actions, because sometimes when you say, hey, don't do that because this happens, they can't see it. But when they actually look at a video and that flight zone that Frank was talking about, they start shuffling back, and by going out in the yard you actually create this big gap which makes the problem worse. So then you go out the yard more, and Bill said you've got to train them to want to walk into the shed and not expect you to go out there and get them in one by one. I love step aerobics, but I hate going up and down the steps too often.
There's also a handy app that you can download on your phone just to record lameness. That Tom showed before. That's a good starting point, but I know you just had sort of whether it was the back left or back right foot that was lame. With the lameness app, it goes into a bit more detail. Whereabout on that hoof? Is it at the toe? Is it at the back? Is it the white line? It goes into more detail in terms of recording what you're actually seeing and treating. And based on the more information you've got, the better decisions you can make. So if you can start building up a picture of where that lameness is, it might sort of put a few clues on there. And every staff on the farm can have the app. They may not always be treating it, but if they see an animal that they think is a bit lame, they can actually flag that animal on their phone, and it will go through on the other phones that, hey, this is an animal that could be worth looking at. So if they're getting cows in and seeing someone's a bit lame, they can make a note of it, and someone else can look at it after or whatever.
Yeah, and you can share that data with farm consultants and vets and that as well off that app here. Just search DairyNZ Healthy Hoof and you'll find that on there. Yeah. Cool. Okay, great. So any other questions? No? Okay, so I think we'll wrap it up, won't we, Tom? Thank you all for joining us today. Hopefully we've provided some insights into our challenge and our journey, and I know that we're not alone when we face this challenge. We're still learning and growing and developing in the space, and it is a multifactorial approach. So, there were quite a lot of things that we changed, and it's really hard to know which one single thing contributed, but we took a bigger, broader view about all the things that we knew were influencing it and had a bit of a planned approach to how we implemented them. We're still looking to hopefully continue the trend of these coming down again, following the same sort of pattern. Just to let you know that there are lots of tools and support out there that can help you, and it's definitely worth investing in finding some solutions and processes to help alleviate some of the lameness challenges that we have on farm. So thanks for taking the time to join us, and all the best for the rest of your for mating, for those of you that are involved in it at the moment, and for the rest of spring. So thank you, Frank, and thanks to Bill, and thanks to everyone for joining us today.
Thank you.
See you later.
See ya.
I'll put a link to the DairyNZ pages onto your Facebook page, Joe, so people
Awesome.
they can find them there.
Thank you, Frank. All right, see you later.